Of course, some clients are anxious anyway, and therefore they're also anxious about new surroundings and new person, and they're anxious about hypnosis. I don't think we necessarily need to indulge in tons of trust building, body mirroring exercises. I think that can end up being quite odd. But for most people, the journey of finding a hypnotherapist is a bit longer. First, they're unaware of solutions. They're searching, how can I stop my pain? They may compare this and that machine and yoga and breath work. And so we begin to build trust. And I think this is where we begin to share content. You know, I teach a lot of people how to be hypnotherapists. And most of them get into it because they want to help people. They didn't get into it because they want to post on TikTok, or they want to create blogs, or they want to do Facebook marketing campaigns. They got into it because they know the potential of the work, and if they could just find clients, great. I don't have an office anymore. I do all of my work on Zoom. And what that means is anyone in this business now has access to a global audience. I built my business by advertising in my local newspaper and paying to rent a room. It was expensive to put someone in the chair. Now, you're not limited geographically. You can work with pretty much any sized group. So we can all do group hypnosis. The next step, and the technology is mostly there, is simultaneous interpretation in any language.
You have told about the antivirus software.
McAfee.
McAfee.
Yeah.
Notification is popping up.
Yeah.
Some
then
example.
It makes you more unsecured.
Yeah.
Today I have learned that you were also one of the victims because I was also.
I think we all were. Yeah, everyone wanted McAfee at some point.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary about that guy. I would high five him now. I think he's a very interesting guy. But and it's one of those things, isn't it? The more of those things you get, especially now you don't know whether to click or not. Someone I saw someone today who had a new Facebook identity, and you think, oh, well, maybe no. And he will have to justify that he's not a robot at some point, and even that, it's a constant game, isn't it, of being safe and allowing things. So any of us can develop a phobia. All of us have some fears. It's normal. It's part of the human experience. And we also seem to have the capacity to change those responses if we choose to. Yeah.
Okay. And you are one of the busiest hypnotherapists in UK. A lot of clients are coming to you and they are trusting you, right? Because when client is coming to a therapist, he or she is trusting the therapist like anything. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you please share about the importance of trust? Because a lot of hypnotherapists, a lot of psychologists, a lot of psychotherapists are watching our podcast.
Yeah.
So would you please tell me the role of
trust between the hypnotherapist and the client? It's most
Sure.
important.
Okay, so I think there's kind of two elements to it. Within the therapeutic system, there is a relationship. It's sometimes referred to as the therapeutic relationship, and clearly trust is part of that. Of course, some clients are anxious anyway, and therefore they're also anxious about new surroundings and new person, and they're anxious about hypnosis. Okay, we mentioned phobias. Some people are anxious about being free of their phobia. Will that mean I have to then do the thing? So it's not that a person can't be experiencing some anxiety, but of course it's our job in that moment to let them know it's confidential, it's safe, that you have experience, that you can be trusted to a degree. those skills, well, some people don't need to cultivate it. You can assume rapport. You're a good person. You have good intentions. I don't think we necessarily need to indulge in tons of trust building, body mirroring exercises. I think that can end up being quite odd. If you want the best for someone, and if you listen actively, if you make the effort to give them some space to share, and you show an interest in what's most important to them, and if you match up to areas of life where you can connect, perhaps they've got teenage children and you've got teenage children, you're allowed to be a human being. You don't have to be the epitome of perfection sitting opposite them. Be real. So all of these things help. But I actually think the bigger not challenge, but the thing that is often overlooked is that there is a customer journey that started way before they sat in the chair. Sometimes the journey's short. As you suggested, they are referred by someone else. If I want the house decorated and someone says, oh, I know this decorator, he's fantastic, and leaves the place immaculately clean every day, and well, cool, I'll take a shortcut, I will sign up because there's a referral. But for most people, the journey of finding a hypnotherapist is a bit longer. First, they're unaware of solutions. They're searching, how can I stop my pain? How can I overcome chronic pain? They're seeing many different things. They're a very broad search. They may compare this and that machine and yoga and breath work. And so we begin to build trust. And I think this is where we have to begin to share content to help them overcome their objections. And if we do that, if we recognize that our customers are on a journey, and the principal goal actually is to build trust by overcoming their objections, then by the time they get to us, maybe there's been an email exchange, maybe there's been a phone call, a Zoom, no obligation chat, we've all of those things have been leading to a point where their objections are finished and now they're ready. And, I teach a lot of people how to be hypnotherapists. And most of them get into it because they want to help people. They didn't get into it because they want to post on TikTok, or they want to create blogs, or they want to do Facebook marketing campaigns. They got into it because they know the potential of the work, and if they could just find clients, great. Some get lucky. Some start a referral business and keep getting the referrals. They never have to do all these other things, but they are the exceptions to the rule. This is a business. It's the hypnotherapy business, and you have to treat it like any other business. If I'm going to buy a product, I'm going to read some reviews. If I'm going to book a consultant, I would like a referral. I'd like to see some work. So I think it's up to us as psychologists or therapists or anything else to understand that this trust building process doesn't begin in the session. And actually the easiest way of creating content is to provide answers to their objections, because that's what they're searching. Can I get stuck in hypnosis? Well, write an article. Does it work? It's that wonderful website, Answer the Public. It's kind of like it shows you, it weights the questions that people are asking.
Yeah, when we type a when we type one particular word, one particular
Yeah.
subject, it will show like a mind map.
A mind map of
yeah.
the how does it work? What does it work? Will it be effective if? That gives you a table of the questions that people are actually asking. They're not asking about the arrow technique or your dissociation method. They're asking, how does it work? Will it work? So we can create some content around that. There's a good chance it will be found. Often it gets hidden away in the frequently asked questions. It's like, no, this is the gateway for people to come into your world. So whether it's video, I just say whatever medium you're happy with. Some people don't want to be on video. I understand it. They have their own fears, actually. Who's watching? Is that school friend watching that I haven't spoken to in 20 years? No, they're not watching. But even if they were. So therapists should deal with their own blocks about the production of content, and whether it's written. In fact, the blog is one of the best ways because it's just there in the record, and you can be keyword rich and it can help. But if not, depending on your audience, choose a platform. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be on every platform. If you've got more corporate clients, get yourself on LinkedIn. You have a younger demographic, go on TikTok. But helping your customers, holding their hand along their customer journey is the way for me of building trust. So by the time we actually get on a call, they normally just have one more question. I've seen a therapist before. It didn't work. Will it work? I can't do a session every week. Is that okay? Fine. And but it's important. But I don't think we need courses for building trust. If your intention is to help this person and you bring your full attention to the time that you spend together, most of the trust is already in place. Yeah. You can overdo it, just have good intentions, give them full focus, be interested, listen actively, repeat things they say back to them, and the job's done.
This is again like a set piece before we invite them to our actual session.
Yeah.
What we do it in the hypnosis session, right? So we give all these FAQ questions prior, and then they get educated.
Yeah.
So they'll have the trust even before they approach us, right? It's good.
Okay, our next question. Can we use hypnosis in the areas of sports, academics, or to improve the creativity?
Absolutely. Without question, it's one of the areas where really we can have the most effect. My friend in India, I consider him to be Mr. Hypnosis in India because he's been into it since 1972, is Pradeep Agarwal, and he's done incredible work over the years with cricketers and golfers in particular. My father's done lots of work with footballers, cyclists, every kind of sport. The therapist doesn't need to know how to play the sport. I mean, if they, know some of the terms, that might help. But the higher up someone gets in their game, the more elite they get in their game, the smaller the differences are, the edge. Think of motor racing, fractions of a second, or 100 meters, it's fractions of a second. And the edge is mindset, going into it, focus during the event, especially longer events, cycling events. People say, I just find myself thinking about other things. So the way I look at it is that sports person has played so much of that game. They have played golf in every condition. They've played golf in every position on the what do you call it? Pitch? No. You need to get your terms right. On the golf course. And somewhere within them is the optimal state for playing golf. They may find it for a few minutes within one game, but somewhere they could be in the perfect state for golf. And we can use techniques to trigger that state, which is mostly going to be made of the same kind of ingredients that are used to describe flow, which is you're fully present, you're enjoying what you're doing, you're performing near the edge of your abilities but not past them, and there's various other bits and pieces. But the way I look at it is that just needs to be called upon, it needs to be extracted from them. They don't need extra training or extra golf clubs. They need... The moment you step up to the tee, you will return to the perfect state for playing golf. The moment you pull the club from your bag, you will return to the perfect state. I remember my dad worked with a long-distance cyclist who would lose focus. But one thing he would often do is look at his pulsometer to gauge his output. Every time you look at your pulsometer, you'll immediately return to the perfect state for cycling, and just slay the field. He would normally be around 10th, and he just cycled out of his skin. And I've seen and heard many, many results like that. So certainly, as well as getting rid of problems, hypnosis is about getting you in the optimal state to perform. And that applies just as readily to academic performance. Some people are incredibly bright, but they fail that law exam again and again and again because they have a problem with exams. And creativity, creative blocks. Sometimes you're just painting, you're just writing, and other times you're worrying about getting it right. So recognize there's a range of experiences. Some are optimal, some are not, but that we can trigger optimal conditions for that person. It's very good work, and it can be, if you wish to niche down in that area, it can be very lucrative business. Think how much, you have to be a professional golfer, but someone who takes their golf seriously. Think how much they might pay for a club if they thought it would give them 5% or 10% on their putting on their first strike. They would buy that club if they could afford it, even if they couldn't. So we can provide an edge just as readily. Yeah.
Okay. So every career has some challenges. Likewise, the hypnosis career is also having some challenges. Have you faced any challenges, or are you facing any challenges right now? And one more question I would like to ask in addition to this question. Will artificial intelligence replace the role of hypnotist in the upcoming future?
Yes, months. Yeah. Well, the second question is yes. No question. I love what artificial intelligence is enabling us to do. And when I look at therapy, I would love to think there's something special and unique about the human connection and looking the person in the eye and all of these things. But these systems are already so intelligent. You probably know the very first system way back in the 60s was to emulate a therapist. It emulated Carl Rogers by just whatever the person said, it would just mirror it with the same question. So certainly, I think people are going to get used to having therapeutic experiences on their phone, and if you combine that with wearable technology that knows if you're stressed or anxious or not, then absolutely AI is coming. No problem. Just give me universal high income and I will be happy. I don't need to do the job. In terms of challenges, most of the challenges are business challenges, but I've been doing this a long time, and it took me a while actually to get on board with doing this on video call. People were doing Skypnosis, 15 years ago, and I played around with that. There were a couple of occasions where it dropped out and stuff. So I was kind of late to the party, but I don't have an office anymore. I do all of my work on Zoom. And what that means is anyone in this business now has access to a global audience. I built my business by advertising in my local newspaper and paying to rent a room. It was expensive to put someone in the chair. Now, you're not limited geographically. You can work with pretty much any sized group. So we can all do group hypnosis. It's also effective. And the next step, and the technology is mostly there, is simultaneous interpretation in any language. I love Brazil. It's on a par with my love for India. I love Brazil. I go there as often as I can. And it's only about 7% of the population speak English. So I obviously need translation. But I'm lucky enough to have a guy there. He works for the UN, but he does simultaneous interpretation, which is really fantastic. Everyone's wearing headphones. As I'm speaking, he is speaking. There is no delay that I could detect. It's an incredible skill. I've got a lot of respect for my friend César Melo, his name is. But he's aware that unless the conversation is so private that you don't want it going through some technology, that even that job, his days are kind of numbered, because we can already do voice cloning. Recently I've been playing around with technology that not just clones your voice, but it can clone your tone of voice in translation.
There's this AI called Hagen, so which can actually translate from English to any language. It can actually clone your voice as well. Yeah. So there are multiple AIs which does.
Yeah, and I've played around with some of the translations. Okay. I've translated some quite detailed documents where, about language patterns, hypnotic language and stuff, and I've sent the translation to native speakers. There were no corrections, nothing. So I'm embracing it, but I don't see it as a threat at this particular moment. As I say, there is no better time to be a hypnotherapist, because we have the technology. It's a very low bar to entry in terms of the cost. Yes, you need some training. You need a laptop, a microphone would help. But you can do this from anywhere. You can work with any number of people. And we have technology that will make you a better therapist. So even for, these intake calls, strategy calls, questions that I might need to answer along the way, if someone wants ideas for a metaphor, some technology that even that job its days are kind of numbered, because we can already do voice cloning. Recently I've been playing around with technology that not just clones your voice, but it can clone your tone of voice in translation. Human, it's not cheating. It's a tool, just like spell check is a tool. Like, use this tool. Someone described the move from 3.5 to 4 as being ChatGPT has an IQ of 155. Well, if a human being has an IQ of 155, I mean, any higher, they're going to struggle to function in society. They're that much of a brainiac. It's like having an employee with an IQ of 155 in every department. Web copy, marketing, emails, content for your work, write a book, produce a blog, I think the key is, if you know your own material, you know your own subject, then you can look at the output from AI and assess whether it's any good or not. I don't want to fill the world with, banal average content, but I think this is an incredible training aid for people who are looking to learn hypnotherapy. One of my favorite tips I give my students is you can now go voice to voice on ChatGPT. So you can use it to practice intake conversations. So just say, I'm a hypnotherapist. I'd like to practice having a conversation with a client who likes to quit smoking. Can you play the client? I will ask the questions. Hi, nice to meet you. What do you want? Well, I'd like to quit smoking. Convince me. So you can practice having these conversations and field questions and objections from them. You can make them objectionable if you want. Make this a challenging client. So embrace the technology, and there's no point worrying about the future, because we have no idea what's coming or where we're going to be in a few years. I would like to think this makes therapeutic exchanges more accessible, and in some cases completely automated, completely private. It's okay.
Okay, I have one interesting question. Hypnotherapist Anthony Jacquin and stage hypnotist Anthony Jacquin. Out of these two roles, which role do you like the most?
I love my work. I've done thousands of therapy sessions, and it never feels like work. I never think, oh, another smoker, another phobia. I enjoy engaging with people around these issues, which are often the most important thing for them, and seeing them change. Stage hypnosis is fun. It's enjoyable. I get, a kick from doing it. But part of that is because I'm not an extrovert. I'm not desperate to be on stage. I'm not desperate to be the center of attention. So doing that kind of stuff stretches me. And that's good for me. That's healthy for me. It's funny, because the show is principally, the demand that people have is primarily that it's funny. A comedy show, it's sort of silly. Even though I try and give it, my own spin and edge, I've actually never been completely satisfied with my stage hypnotism act. It's not quite what I'd want to deliver. It's not necessarily what I'd like to be known for. or remembered by. But that doesn't put me off. It just means that, there's the pursuit for kind of mastering that side of it continues. So I just call myself a hypnotist, actually. I prefer that even to saying hypnotherapist. I'm a hypnotist. I'm an agent of change. I can show you something remarkable about yourself. That applies whether I'm speaking to a therapy client or an audience. I'm sitting on the fence, as you may have figured out.
I would like to ask you this question. Reality is plastic. That book has created a revolution in impromptu hypnosis. I mean, it has sold so many copies and it has created a revolution. So, I mean, is there any other book coming up from your side?
Yeah, it's kind of overdue, isn't it? Given that I wrote that in 2007.
Oh, okay.
There is, actually. So I've been working on a book solely focused on self-hypnosis. It's become a real obsession of mine because I said earlier we vary as subjects, and early on I found out I'm not the greatest subject. I would like to hallucinate on demand, but I don't seem to be getting to those levels, experiencing that phenomena. So that was frustrating, and it meant I overlooked self-hypnosis. I didn't engage in it as much as I could have or should have. Now my view of the nature of hypnosis has changed. Now I see it as a skill. I see it as something you can get better at. Well, I've become a better subject. And I've created an approach to self-hypnosis that I can stand beside, that's fully aligned with my own, views of the world and philosophical ideas, if you like. So, yeah, part of, just my own personal development and interest is actually highly informed by what I would just call Indian philosophy. I've read almost every book of significance about self-hypnosis from, let's just say, Western authors. And there is almost no mention or interest in yourself. It doesn't feature in the book on self-hypnosis, as if, well, I know very well who I am. I know who I'm doing this for. And that is a huge oversight. I fell in love with some of the ideas and the writings that were left behind by Ramana Maharshi, who ended up settling at, is it Arunachala, the sacred hill?
Tiruvannamalai.
Yeah. And his primary device before doing anything else is to use the "who am I" question as the blade of inquiry. And for anyone that's done that kind of work, we call it non-duality, but Advaita is informed by those ideas, then you see that this inquiry doesn't require any belief. It doesn't require you to sign up to any religion or anything like that. It's just try and figure out who you are, and not to spoil the effect, but nothing really sticks to this blade. That's the first thing that happens. You come up empty-handed, but you have an experience of kind of emptiness. And then you continue to use the inquiry, and you may have a more expansive experience. Most of us are searching really for happiness, lasting happiness, peace and connection. And my experience is that if we just put the hypnosis to one side for a second and do some of the work on your very everyday sense of self, the one you call I, then you will see that your nature isn't lacking anything. It's not agitated, and there is a connection with everything around you. It's just as intimate, whether it's your foot on the floor or the moon in the sky or whatever. So I think there's a vast amount of value there. And it kind of turns things on its head, because you start to see that self-hypnosis is just a lifetime of suggestions that you need to kind of wake up from. So engaging in self-hypnosis then, which is really what my book's going to be about, is really starts with that recognition of your sense of being, you're present and you're aware. Nothing else. There's nothing else that is permanent, but throughout your experience, you are present, you are aware. And then we can begin to either be active in our self-hypnosis, setting goals, looking at timelines, identifying steps, repeating affirmations, getting into states, postures, breathing. We can be active, or we can be receptive. We can use questions. We can see what comes up. We can trust our intuition. We can begin to communicate with ourselves. And I've got lots and lots of different ways of doing that. So self-hypnosis for me, I guess I have a very broad view that it's really any effort to use ideas to alter your experience. Human beings have been altering their experience for thousands of years. We've all got different cultural lenses, and to me, self-hypnosis is just one of those lenses. But again, being free of the idea that hypnosis is a special state means I can look at hypnosis, self-hypnosis as well, with more freedom now. I'm no longer waiting to feel like I'm in a trance or know what level I'm at. Instead, wherever I'm at, I'm already doing self-hypnosis. If I'm feeling anxious about the interview, I'm already doing self-hypnosis. And if I'm comfortable and relaxed, trusting the words are going to come out, I'm already doing self-hypnosis. So my next book, funnily enough, will be about self-hypnosis.
Great. Yeah. That's wonderful. We're looking for the book to come very well. But in the world of AI, we're going to talk about I, right? So it's much interesting. I mean, who you are, what you are, and the connection between I and this universe and the world, the nature. Yeah. It's beautiful to know all these things, and we are very much looking forward to your book. So, and all the best and best wishes.
Thank you.
And we are quickly moving out to these rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'll try and find some rapid answers.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. First question. Yes. Very interesting. Have you ever hypnotized your wife?
Or by your wife?
She was my first ever subject.
Ah, super.
Really?
Yeah.
Great.
She became my wife after that.
Okay. So she became your client. Then she
was the first person I ever practiced on at university.
Okay.
And she quit smoking.
Great.
We got married at some point after that.
Great.
Nothing to do with hypnosis. It was just,
Okay.
Yeah. In some videos, a person simply rubs the backside of the neck of the cat. The cat falls into deep sleep instantaneously. In such a way, have you ever hypnotized any animal or pet in your life?
I've played around with some of that. So it seems that in some creatures, we can induce, is it a catatonic kind of state? I've done it with a chicken. Yeah, I've done it with a chicken. You put its beak on the ground and you draw a line in front of it, and it stays there. I don't think it's hypnotized. I don't think it's responding to suggestions. There is a wonderful act, if you want to see that, on one of these Got Talent shows. A sweet little girl, she's probably 5 or 6, and she does that to a dog, a chicken, a frog, and maybe a lobster or something. And it's actually got a real tradition. Old school stage hypnotists would do some of these things. You can do it with a lobster. You bring it down toward the table, and it will go into this catatonic state. My guess is it's some primal protective mechanism, kind of playing dead. It would be nice if it was dead before it was thrown in the pot of boiling water, but hey ho. Don't eat them.
All right. So share us one funniest reaction which you have got from somebody who falls under hypnosis.
Funniest reaction. That's a tough one. I did once draw a chalk triangle on the pavement and tell someone, they were walking down the street, when you step into this triangle, you'll be stuck in this triangle. We called it the Bermuda Triangle. So they became stuck in this triangle, and I'm ashamed to say they were in Amsterdam. We told them that the canals were flooding, and they really wanted to warn everybody that the city was flooding, which is a stupid thing to say, but it was very funny. It was very funny indeed. We also sent that person, we told, so bad. We, just for a TV show, we told him he was a dog, and we took him to the park, and we lined up 4 different dogs on this hill, and we told him he was going to go speed dating. It was very, very amusing. And actually at one point I said, paw, and did the paw drop induction. So, you know, you can create some very silly things, respectfully. I don't advise you do either of those things, but it was funny to me at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, if someone wants to become a hypnotist, what advice would you like to give to them?
Begin would be my first thing. The basics are most of what you need. Many people, this isn't a pitch, but many people got my book as an example and had a go. But what I would really say is to find a trainer, like do a training course if you can afford to do a training course, and ensure, or ideally build a relationship so that that trainer, you know, in some way becomes a mentor, a guide, someone you could call a friend as much as anything else. You are mutually interested in the subject. So your trainer should be accessible. There is a trend in the industry of people, you know, having basic courses and advanced courses and grandmaster practitioner courses, and I don't like that. I think this idea of sort of holding the secrets back is mostly a false proposition. You can learn the good stuff, you know, if you have a decent course in your first few days. So don't wait. Don't wait to be perfect at it. Start with the basics, and they will teach you most of what you need. There are things that I call the set piece, but little exercises that don't really require any hypnosis. Magnetic fingers, magnetic hands, light heavy arms, a stiff arm. What I say to people is go out and do that on 50 people and just pay attention to the responses, and doing that will teach you most of what you need to know about the next bit. And because really the induction and the routines are more of the same. You don't realize that at first. You think there's some fundamental shift that happens when we do the induction. To me, I just see the stuff before the induction and the stuff after as one continuous game of suggestion. Training helps. If you can't afford training, get a book. If you can't afford a book, get on YouTube. And the information is out there.
Great.
Yeah.
We'll go with one last question.
Okay.
If you could use hypnosis to learn any particular skill, what would that be? It could be anything.
I'd like to play the harp. I went to see a brilliant jazz trumpeter recently. It's very... it's almost like spiritual sounding, expansive, cinematic music. And they had a harpist, a grand harp, I think you'd call it. Don't know anything about the harp. But it was one of the most mesmerizing performances and sounds that I've ever heard. So if I could rapidly learn how to play the harp, and there's no reason I couldn't, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to our
pleasure.
studio, and thank you so much for coming to India.
Of course.
Yeah. And once again, me and Arun are conveying our sincere gratitude to you for guiding us in our career.
Now we feel honored to have you
That's nice,
with us.
but
Yeah.
we're friends. We're connected forever. Thanks for the opportunity to answer a few questions.
Yeah. And finally, what you would like to say to our audience?
Look, if some of this has resonated, if you've connected with some of the ideas, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm happy to share. The reason I'm connected with Ashok is he sent me an email in 2009 and we've stayed in touch. So feel free to get in touch with me. My personal website is anthonyjacquin.com. The training I provide for my father is jacquinhypnosisacademy.com. I also shared some of our best resources years ago on a website called How to Hypnotize on YouTube, a YouTube channel rather.
How to hypnotize.
2 Hypnotize, with an old company I used to have, Head Hacking. And if you have nowhere else to start, you don't have any resources, you don't have any books, you don't have any trainers, you could go there. It's free, and there's a series of lessons, and you will be able to hypnotize the same day if you watch all of those lessons. So get started. And I touched on this earlier, but whatever hobby, interest, sport, business, or role you have, it will be enhanced when you have an understanding of hypnosis. My dad sometimes boils it all down to, it's just words, it's just imagination. And knowing that means that, we can engage with this stuff at any level. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We will meet you soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Take care.